Oxford Scholars and Oxford Livery, Men How to Ensure a Good Horse, and Prevent Accidents description of Bagley would a freshman breaking cover interview, with the Egyptian secrets of futurity unveiled Abingdon beauty's singular anecdote and history of Mother Goose. 157 The ride to Bagley Wood introduced me to some new features of a college life, not the least entertaining of which was the dialogue before starting between my friend Eglantine, the livery stable keeper, and his man, where we went to engage the horses. Eglin. To the ostler, well, Dick, what sort of a stud, hey? Anything rum, a ginger or a miller, 3 legs or 5, got by whirlwind out of skyscraper. Come, fig out 2 lively ones. Dick. I mun see meester first, sir, before I lets any gentleman take a nag out o' yard. It's more as my place is worth to act otherwise. Eglin. What coming Tip Street over us, hey, Dick? 158 frisking the freshman here, old fellow. Pointing to me. It won't do no go. Dickie's my friend, a cocker to be sure, but must not stand Sam to an Oxford raff or a Yorkshire Johnny Raw. Dick. I axe's pardon, sir. I didn't mean any such thing, but ever since you rode the grey tit last, she's never been out o' stall. Eglin. Not surprised at that, Dick. Never crossed a greater slug in my life. She's only fit to carry a dean or a bishop no go in her. Dick. No, sir, meester zays as how you took it all out on her. Eglin. Why, I did give her a winder, Dick, to be sure, only 1 day's hunting, though, a good hard run over Somerset Range, not above 60 miles out and home. Dick. I thought as how you'd been in some breakneck tumble-down country, sir, for Tit's knuckles showed she'd had a Somerset or 2. Eglin. Well, blister the mare, Dick. There's half a bull for your trouble. Now put us on the right scent for a good one, anything young and fresh, sprightly and shoey. Dick. Why, there be such a one to be sure, sir, but you munna split on me, or I shall get the zack for telling on ye. If you'll sken yon stable at end o' the yard, there be 2 prime tits just calmed in from Abingdon Fair, thoroughbred and devils to go, but meester won't let 'em out. Eglin. Won't he? Here he comes, and we'll try what a little persuasion will do. Enter livery man. Well, old fellow, I've brought you a new friend, Blackmantle of Brazenose. What sort of praxis can you give us for a trot to Bagley Wood, a short ride for something shoey to lionize a bit? Livery M. Nothing new, sir, and you know all the stud pretty well, knowingly. Suppose you try the grey mare you rode t'other day, and I'll find a quiet one for your friend. 159 Eglin. If I do, I am a black horse. She's no paces, nothing but a shuffle, not a leg to stand on. Livery M. Every one as good as the principal of All Souls. Not a better bred thing in Oxford, and all horses here gallop by instinct, as every body knows, but they can't go forever, and when gentlemen ride steeple chases of 60 miles or more right ahead, they ought to find their own horseflesh. Eglin. What coming crab over us, old fellow, hey one very well, I shall bolt and try Randall, and that's all about it. Come along, Blackmantle. My friend's threat of withdrawing his patronage had immediately the desired effect. Horace's judgment in horseflesh was universally admitted, and the knowing dealer, although he had suffered in one instance by hard riding, yet deeply calculated on retrieving his loss by some unsuspecting freshman, or other university Nimrod in the circle of Eglantine's acquaintance. By this time, Echo had arrived, and we were soon mounted on the 2 fresh purchases which the honest Yorkshireman had so disinterestedly pointed out, and which, to do him justice, deserved the eulogium he had given us on their merits. One circumstance must not, however, be forgotten, which was the following notice posted at the end of the yard. To prevent accidents, gentlemen pay before mounting. How the deuce can this practice of paying beforehand prevent accidents? Said I. You're fresh, old fellow, said Echo, or you'd understand after a man breaks his neck he fears no duns. Now you know by accident what old humanity there means. Bagley is about 2.5 miles from Oxford on the Abingdon Road, an exceedingly pleasant ride, leaving the sacred city and passing over the old bridge where formerly was situated the study or observatory of the celebrated Friar Bacon. Not an object in the shape of a petticoat escaped some raillery, and scarcely 160 a town raff, but what met with a corresponding display of university wit, and called forth many a cutting joke. The place itself is an extensive wood on the summit of a hill, which commands a glorious panoramic view of Oxford and the surrounding country, richly diversified in hill and dale, and sacred spires shooting their varied forms on high above the domes, and minarets and towers of reticina. This spot, the favorite haunt of the Oxonians, is covered for many miles with the most luxuriant foliage, affording the cool retreat, the love-embowered shades, over which prudence spreads the friendly veil. Here many an amorous couple have in softest dalliance met, and sighed and frolicked, free from suspicion's eye beneath the broad umbrageous canopy of nature. Here, too, is the favorite retreat of the devotees of Cypriani, the spicy grove of assignations where the velvet sleeves of the proctor never shake with terror in the wind, and the savage form of the university bulldog is unknown. A party of wandering English Arabs had pitched their tents on the brow of the hill, just under the first cluster of trees, and materially increased the romantic appearance of the scene. The group consisted of men, women, and children, a tilted cart with 2 or 3 asses, and a lurcher who announced our approach. My companions were, I soon found, well known to the females, who familiarly approached our party, while the male animals as condescendingly betook themselves into the recesses of the wood. "Black Nan," said Echo, "and her daughter, the gypsy beauty, the Bagley brunette." "Shall I tell your honor's fortune?" said the elder of the two, approaching me, while Eglantine, who had already dismounted and given his horse to one of the brown urchins of the party, had encircled the waist of the younger Sybil and was tickling her into a trot in an opposite direction. "I do, Nan," 161 said Echo. "Cast his nativity, open the book of fate, and tell the boy his future destiny." It would be the height of absurdity to repeat half the nonsense this oracle of Bagley uttered relative to my future fortunes. But with the cunning peculiar to her cast, she discovered I was fresh. And what tormented me more, although on her part it was no doubt accidental, alluded to an amour in which my heart was much interested with a little divinity in the neighborhood of Eton. This hint was sufficient to give Tom his cue, and I was doomed to be pestered for the remainder of the day with questions and raillery on my progress in the court of love. On our quitting the old gypsy woman, a pair of buxom damsels came in sight, advancing from the Abingdon road. They were no doubt like ourselves, I thought, come to consult the oracle of Bagley, or, perhaps, were the daughters of some respectable farmer who owned the adjoining land. All these doubts were, however, of short duration, for Tom Echo no sooner caught sight of their faces than away he bounded towards them like a young colt in all the frolic of untamed playfulness, and before I could reach him, one of the ladies was rolling on the green carpet of luxuriant nature. In the deep bosom of Bagley Wood, impervious to the eye of authority, many a sportive scene occurs which would alarm the ethics of the solemn sages of the cloistered college. They were, I discovered, sisters, too early abandoned by an unfeeling parent to poverty, and thus became an easy prey to the licentious and the giddy, who, in the pursuit of pleasure, never contemplate the attendant misery which is sure to follow the victim of seduction. There was something romantic in their story. They were daughters of the celebrated Mother Goose, whose person must have been familiar to every Oxonian for the last 60 years prior to her decease, which occurred but a short time since of 162 this woman's history. I have since gleaned some curious particulars, the most remarkable of which, contained in the annex note, have been authenticated by living witnesses. One, her portrait, by a member of All Souls, is admirable, and is here faithfully copied. One Mother Goose, formerly a procuress, and one of the most abandoned of her profession. When from her advanced age, and the loss of her eyesight, she could no longer obtain money by seducing females from the path of virtue, she married a man of the name of H, commonly called Gentleman H, and for years was led by him to the students' apartments in the different colleges with baskets of the choicest flowers. Her ancient, clean, and neat appearance, her singular address, and above all, the circumstance of her being blind, never failed of procuring her at least 10 times the price of her posy. and which was frequently doubled when she informed the young gentlemen of the generosity, benevolence, and charity of their grandfathers, fathers, or uncles whom she knew when they were at college. She had several illegitimate children, all females, and all were sacrificed by their unnatural mother, except one, who was taken away from her at a very tender age by the child's father's parents. When of age, this child inherited her father's property, and is now, I believe, the wife of an Irish nobleman, and to this time is unconscious that Mother Goose of Oxford gave her birth. The person who was instrumental in removing the child is still living in Oxford, and will testify to the authenticity of the fact here related. His present Majesty never passed through Oxford without presenting Mother Goose with a donation, but of course without knowing her early history. 163 . Having, as Echo expressed it, now broke cover, and being advanced one step in the study of the Fathers, we prepared to quit the Abingdon fair and rural shades of Bagley on our return to Oxford, something lighter in pocket and a little too in morality. We raced the whole of the distance home, to the great peril of several groups of town raff whom we passed in our way. On our arrival, my friends had each certain lectures to attend or college duties to perform. An idle freshman, there was yet 3 hours good before the invitation to the spread, and as kind fortune willed it to amuse the time, a packet arrived from Horatio Hartley. He had been spending the winter in town with his aunt, Lady Mary Oldstyle, and had, with his usual tact, been sketching the varied groups which form the circle of fashionable life. It was part of the agreement between us, when leaving each other at Eton, that we should thus communicate the characteristic traits of the society we were about to amalgamate with. He has, in the phraseology of the day, just come out, and certainly appears to have made the best use of his time. Kensington, Gardn. Sunday evening. Singularities of 1824. 164. Western entrance into the metropolis. A descriptive sketch.